All right. For our next panel, I would love to call Karen and Corey to the stage, our partners at Dixa, who will be talking a little bit about building operational agility, particularly during these tough economic times, and how you can incorporate operational agility into your customer service processes. So with that, please come to the stage.
Awesome. So very excited to be here today. An honor to be presenting. Horatio is a really great partner of ours here at Dixa. We're going to be hitting on the topic of building operational agility into your CS team. Let's go to the next slide. Just a little bit of background. So I'm Karen. I'm head of U.S. sales here at Dixa. Been at Dixa for going on a year. I think a year on May 2nd. But my background is actually in the customer service space on the vendor side. So previously I worked at a company called Stella Connect. Some of you may be familiar with that. And then after that, Medallia. Love this space. Love being on the vendor side. We get a really interesting lens into the operations of a lot of different customer service teams, which we're going to be speaking to a little bit more today. And Corey?
Yeah, I'm Corey, as Karen mentioned. I've met a lot of you so far, and it's been a great time here. So thank you, Horatio, for having us. I'm based out of our Chicago, U.S. HQ, like Karen. I'll get a bit more into some context around sort of my role and the interplay between my role and helping brands achieve operational agility in a little bit. But at a high level, I have a background in software sales, startups, and then early on customer service on a retail side. And so my career's kind of come full circle so far with Dixa, blending those two worlds.
Awesome. So what are we going to tackle today? So when Corey and I were sitting down to prep for this, the reality is we don't run a customer service team. We've never run a customer service team. We're not going to pretend that we do. But what we do is we talk to hundreds of customer service leaders every month. And it's really, really interesting what we hear from them in terms of challenges that brands are experiencing and where they want to go within this market. So today we're actually going to spotlight a couple of brands that we've been speaking with over the last couple of months. I think some of their challenges will resonate with you all. Talk about our advisory process with those clients, and then from there go into 5 tips that we typically recommend to our clients in terms of building a more nimble, operationally agile team in this economy. And of course, we'll give you a little bit of insight on who the heck is Dixa. Awesome. So, what is our process? So, we don't like to call ourselves salespeople. We like to call ourselves advisories, or advisory. CX advisory is the term we use internally at Dixa. And typically when a brand comes to Dixa, they're sort of on the cusp of change. So we're typically talking to managers, directors, VP of customer service, operations, and usually something is amok. And we want to help them go through a consultative process where we truly understand what is current state in terms of the systems that they're using. What are the negative impacts of that current state? We want to be able to measure that. Oftentimes, clunky system setups that are really drastically affecting metrics, a drastic cost impact. We then want to help them understand what is that ideal after scenario and what are the positive business outcomes that could come as a result of that after scenario. So this is actually a pretty common sales framework. It's called Command the Message, and a lot of vendors use this framework to really be able to paint that picture of what does this look like today and where do you want to go in the future. As part of that, we found here at Dixa over the last year that something that can be very beneficial is to have members of our team actually go in and do what we call agent and manager shadow sessions. So oftentimes we'll spend 1 to 2 hours with potential clients actually going in and watching agents answering a customer inquiry from start to finish. What are the systems they're using? How many tabs are they having to go into, right? Managers, what is the process of pulling a report, getting those analytics? And it's very interesting what we find, and we're able to help identify inefficiencies in their process and then make recommendations, typically involving Dixa as part of that, in terms of what that after scenario can look like. So with that, and Corey has a unique lens because he's on the forefront of running a lot of these agent and manager shadow sessions, so he's going to spotlight a couple of those for you all today. But if we look at the evolution of customer service as a function, it's really changed over the last 20 years. If you look to this far side, we've actually trademarked a topic that we call customer friendship. So customer friendship is really near and dear to our hearts here at Dixa. And that really represents this evolution, right? In terms of the function of customer service, moving from customers' expectations being, how do I get in touch, to then, can I quickly find an answer, to today, which is customers want to trust, no matter how and when they're interacting with the brand, that they're going to get the help that they need. Customer service as a department has changed from playing catch up to optimizing to now really a strategic value center within the business. Within Dixa, and we'll talk about this a little bit more, we want to help leaders really be strategic, help the brand use customer service as a differentiator, and a lot of that comes down to not being reactive, but using data to proactively get in front of potential problems, right? Providing insights to the business to make the right changes that need to be made in this market. And ultimately, agents and anyone on the front lines being viewed as trusted advisors, not as customer service reps. So with that, I'm going to pass it over to Corey, and I think we're going to dig into a couple of brands.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll give some examples of some of those proactive opportunities that some brands have, had to endure. So with that, and yeah, just I guess before we get into the spotlights, sort of as Karen alluded to, I live between these two worlds. So, a lot of my week is these shadow sessions, as you mentioned, building out business cases for why change, when change, what does change take within the context of your tech stack, within the context of your metrics. So, I've seen a lot of different setups and examples of some of the things we're talking about. So, and forewarning, we want you all to sort of think about, which of these 3 brands that we're spotlighting sort of you most assimilate with. So we're going to have a little activity in a moment. So definitely pay attention. So 3 brands, we won't name names because a lot of these conversations, at least in the early stages, are rather confidential. But 3 brands. One, we have a fast-growing fintech that we're going through this process with, a D2C flower delivery company, and then a software as a service platform. So we'll talk more about these 3 here coming up. This is a very busy slide with a lot of words, but this is sort of an outcome slide, so an example of sort of what we heard, what the challenges were that we saw, the negative impact associated with those challenges, and then finally, what a world with a solution like a Dixa could look like by addressing these issues. So I think one that I want to highlight in particular that we really saw with this D2C flower delivery company is that disconnected system and channel, setup that their agents or associates were facing. And a byproduct of that was that because there was disconnected data across who is this customer, what is their history with the brand, the agents weren't able to deliver that very personalized experience, which when you're ordering flowers and that's an exciting thing and you have an issue, and it's also an anxiety provoking thing, right? Because you want to make sure that that person gets those flowers and they have a great experience. You expect that when you interact with support, you get a personalized experience. Brand B, so a fast growing fintech company. This one I think was really, really interesting because we could quantify actually the time associated with this pain point. So when we observed their team leads and associates, we found that one team lead in particular, she was spending literally her entire day going into what was called a CX unassigned queue. So tickets that didn't get routed to agents for XYZ reasons. We won't go into all those. And her job was basically to go in and subjectively pick which agent should, or associate should these conversations go to. So that's a big chunk of time. And to be honest, as a team lead of a customer service team, you want to be focused on more strategic efforts in the business, training and leveling up associates, for example, improving metrics, not essentially cherry picking and distributing tickets. So their improved state's going to look more like just having routing behind these conversations that come in. We call tickets conversations, and making sure that those conversations go to the right agent at the right time based on what the customer needs and what they're reaching out about. Brand C, so this is a software as a service platform They actually have sort of a hybrid type of customer. So while it's a B2B software platform, a lot of their customers operate like consumers, small business owners, entrepreneurs, and they're in the digital tool space. And when we shadowed their team, we found that one of their team leads was spending 50% of his time just managing the knowledge base, creating new articles, trying to really beef up self-service. And when we zoomed out into sort of the importance of knowledge-centered service in the context of their business, we learned that the reason that that's so important is the business decided to launch actually a free tier associated with their subscription. So that meant that inquiry volume started to really soar, and they could not tie up support with a lot of these, customers that weren't actually paid customers. They had to really allocate support resources towards those paid tiers and to have the right self-service tools in place to deflect or effectively self-serve within the platform itself. Go ahead.
Awesome. I was going to say, I think it would be, since we have so many CS leaders here in the room, you could turn to the person nearest to you and just any reflections out of the 3 different brands that Corey profiled here. Do you resonate with either A, B, or C? And then we'll see if we can get a volunteer to share a little bit more.
Don't be shy. We've all met and had drinks and talked already.
Yeah. Awesome. So I think Corey and I will tag team this section a little bit, but we have this formula for operational agility here at Dixa. And we think it boils down to really customer friendship plus a great agent experience equals your customer service function being viewed and truly as a value center. So going from here, we'll spotlight first customer friendship, which for us, we think this means allowing you to focus on powerful bonds between agents and customers, resulting in greater lifetime value, deeper emotional loyalty, and higher CSAT, of course. So as we think about building operational agility, specifically within this bucket, our first tip, we'll go to the next slide, is around creating truly connected experiences, right? We know brands across the board often struggle with siloed channels, systems, and data. It's stressful for agents. It's stressful for customers. If my friend, customer Corey over here, contacts me on Tuesday, I should remember who he is and why he's important to me when he emails me again on Thursday, and then when he texts me again on Sunday. You need all of your channels in one centralized location, and you need all of the data relevant to agents about that customer and about the interaction that they're servicing center, so they can provide that personalized experience that's connected across all of the potential touch points that that customer has had. Anything you want to add?
And I think that's just like a really good example of what we mean by customer friendship. That's the expectation, and you need to do that same thing regardless of channel. And as we all know, customers reach out across multiple channels, and so if that experience is disconnected to them, that's a direct reflection of the agent experience. I think, we work with a lot of retail brands, and I think Rap is probably one of our strongest examples of this. Any cyclists in the room? Okay, promo code coming for you. So yeah, they sort of came to us with this vision of having what they called one RAFA, which is basically, in their mind, the unification of all of their systems, both on the storefront level and on the back end level. And we were just a really strong fit in terms of being aligned philosophically and then being able to deliver on their needs from a technical integration point of view. They also coined the term one screen wonder, which we've sort of repurposed into a lot of our conversations with what Dixa brings to the table. The results sort of speak for themselves. I think efficiency was really their top metric that they were looking to improve, and then retaining customers obviously is always top of mind.
Awesome. And then our next step is really around self-service. We know that brands need optimized self-service experiences for their customers, right? And these need to always be on, and they need to be intelligent. And I think, Corey, you can give an example of this.
Yeah, so Resident Home furniture company. They were really focused on how they could provide their customers with that knowledge right away, right? All of us have probably had some experience getting furniture delivered, building furniture, through like, for example, IKEA. And it's typically, especially if you're not sort of like handy, a frustrating experience, and there's a lot of questions and there's a lot of paperwork. So for them, they really recognized that they needed to match the sort of like appeal of their brand, which is a very, sexy, sleek brand, with the process of what that means when you actually get that at your doorstep. And so that meant providing people with very quick hit, tips and tricks, guided articles, videos, at the touch of their customers' fingertips, through an intelligent knowledge center. And then, I just want to highlight that as a result of that, they were able to allow over 30% of their customers to self-serve.
Cool. And then I think moving into the second step of this formula, the agent experience, we want agents to be empowered to prioritize, right, to predict, and to improve the results that they drive for the business. So we're talking to brands about improved agent productivity, wanting to lower employee churn, and ultimately shorter training times. But with that, onto our third tip, which is really empowering team members with automation and knowledge. What does this mean? First of all, getting the right interaction to the right agent at the right time, based on their skill set, where they sit within the business, based on whether it's a VIP customer or not. So many different data points that can be brought in from external systems to really get that routing right. But then from there, really arming agents, right, with the contextual knowledge, the historical knowledge, and insights around that interaction itself to be able to provide that personalized customer experience.
So I love that Spot and Tango was highlighted in the session before us, because we work with a very similar brand actually out of the UK called Butternut Box. So human grade dog food, and they actually have a very strict vernacular in their customer service team. They don't use the word agent. They use customer love associates. So I think that's really great. And their director Harriet will actually plug our new Customer Friendship podcast, which Harriet was our first guest on. She's their customer love director. And essentially what they saw an opportunity for in the pet food space is to really focus their customer love associates time on not these reactive problems, but actually these more proactive, outbound conversations that lead to retention. So for them, what that looks like is actually, when a customer reaches out, for example, they actually have the full visibility into, as Karen was talking about, the customer's history, but also great attributes around who their pet is, what they ordered, and they're able to actually make recommendations, so upsell, based on those data points. So instead of actually just being sort of a, rinse and repeat contact center, they are actually driving revenue for the business. And in order to do that, they needed that, efficient setup, that, customer context, to start to focus on those sorts of things. They also are really strong in agent training. So they get new, customer love associates. They would be mad at me for that. Up and running in, on average, 2 weeks on the platform.
Yeah, and I think to allow agents to prioritize the time spent with customers, we have a lot of clients who are taking advantage of our beta program with our GPT-powered knowledge assists. So actually using GPT to using that customer's internal knowledge base, actually pre-craft the response for the agent. So then all they need to do then is personalize it, which what we're finding is that at the interaction level can save agents up to 50% of the time it previously took to actually craft that response. Some very interesting things going on from an assist perspective here.
Yeah, and I missed this point, but in terms of that proactive example, like with that time saved back, they also are early on in a customer's journey as a subscription-based model. They're actually reaching out to new customers after their first order and asking, how are things going? Is there anything we can do for you? So it's that more white glove approach. But again, you need the time back in the day to be able to free your team up to do that.
Cool. And then looking at business value here, ultimately we want to help you transform your customer service department into a value creation center, right? That's easy to maintain and measure. That easy to maintain part is something that we hear a lot from brands when they come to us, that they want to be able to make real-time changes, right? And react to market conditions, but it's really hard for them to do that without leaning on IT. And there's a delay. We go to this first tip for this part, just autonomy and flexibility, right? Brands need to be able to react in real time, and customer service leaders need to be able to make changes without waiting 2 days for IT to make them. Sounds really simple, but most brands that we talk to do not have the ability to make these real-time changes. Do you want to give an example here that we love to use?
Yeah, and I always miss this, so it's literally the one note I wrote on the note card. So, yeah, so this is a fun story. We work a lot with food tech, as you all are probably starting to gather. This is not the example we'll talk about Too Good to Go in a moment. So we have a produce delivery company actually out of Denmark. We're founded and headquartered in Copenhagen, so they're very close to us. And they had a really big issue with their one of their produce boxes that went out with a batch of blue mushrooms. So usually when we tell the story, people are Googling blue mushrooms. If you look up blue mushrooms, they are actually non-toxic, but they look really weird. We should have included a picture on it. Apologies there. So as you can imagine, as a consumer, you get your produce box, you see blue mushrooms, and it's like, WTF, right? What's going on? So naturally, that's going to create, and did create, a big influx of customers reaching out to support. What is this? They recognized that was starting to happen in the supply chain, and so they were able to, through Dixa, set up across all channels some proactive automation around essentially, hey, we're on it, we're working on it, we're fixing it, and by the way, you're not harmed, these are safe, and educating the consumer. So there was all sorts of functionality that they were able to easily deploy throughout, without the need of assistance from IT, things like auto tagging, things like, knowledge article deflection, tagging conversations as they came in that they were related to that issue, setting up an IVR, message about, hey, if you're calling about the blue mushrooms, XYZ. And net, Karen talked about the metrics associated with this agility. Once the aftermath was over, they, looked up all the conversations that customers were affected, by this issue, sent a bulk email, remedied the issue. They communicated with us that the ability to do that in Dixa in a matter of minutes and not waiting on IT saved them an estimated almost $100,000 in, potential refunds that they would have had to, remedy without being able to ease people's minds easily. So,
not to mention the backlog.
Yes. Yeah, I think another food tech example. How are we doing on time? 5 minutes, okay. I think also, not relying on IT also means you all can scale your business. You all have different, strategies in terms of scale and growth. One of our customers, Too Good to Go, their growth strategy revolved around essentially growing from city to city. So they needed to be able to easily set up a new phone number in a new territory, set up a new flow specific to their customers in that territory, and to be able to easily do that without having it be a big multi-week project, each time. So with Dixa, they were able to really replicate a lot of what was working in other markets, tweak nuances in terms of like flows, et cetera, buy phone numbers really easily, and scale from, a team of 20 to over 100 in a matter of about 6 months.
Awesome. And then this really is more of a food for thought. How many of you all are using within your businesses annual recurring revenue, or ARR? Anyone? Hands up? Anyone know? Okay. Well, we work with a lot of businesses that historically have been using ARR. What we have found, and we're doing this at Dixa, is we've switched to an NRR model, net revenue retention. And we found that this is a better North Star. And the reason for that is that ARR can often be misleading. We'll go to the next slide. NRR is a metric that actually considers the impact of churn upgrades and downgrades on a business's revenue. And ultimately, the calculation is pretty simple, but what you do is you take the total revenue generated from existing customers over a given period of time by the total revenue generated from those same customers at the beginning of the period. And you're getting something that really takes into consideration upsell, cross-sell, and churn, which we need to be laser focused on right now in this economy. And I think with that, just given time, wanting more insight on that, I'm happy to link you directly with my CFO. He's very passionate about this topic. With that, I think just a quick background on Dixa. Who are we? We'll go to the next slide, Corey. So Dixa was founded in 2015. We're actually a Copenhagen-based company. So our kind of operational team is all based in Denmark. I have the pleasure of being able to go there quite often. Very much love the Danish culture. We also have offices in Berlin, Melbourne, London, and then we have an office in Chicago. So we launched in the US in 2021. And 2022 was kind of our growth year in the United States and North America in general. It's our newest market. It's also our largest market. And we work with so many amazing brands, ranging from Rafa to Too Good To Go, to Butternut Box, to Novo Insurance, the list goes on. And ultimately, our suite encompasses a conversational customer service platform, sit in the help desk space, but we also have a suite that includes chatbot and automation, quality assurance and insights, as well as knowledge management. So very exciting platform, and it's awesome just to see the true impact of it within our customers' tech stack, as Corey kind of spoke to some of these use cases today. You want to give a little bit more of a breakdown?
Yeah, and I think I'll try to tie it all together here with some of the things we've talked about. But this is essentially, these are sort of the modules, if you will, of our platform in terms of all of those different components that we help brands bring together from a channel perspective, from an agent experience perspective, from the customer facing, what happens when they reach out and how do they get to that agent, and then as all that's happening, the analytics and reporting and QA that you all are obviously very keen to tap into. So on the right, we've talked a lot about this in the context of our operational agility formula, but these are really the sort of value pillars, if you will, that we bring to brands. So most brands that are working with us are coming to us to improve the customer experience, improve the agent experience, really create more of that operational efficiency, and then to drive better business value. A lot of them are trying to do all of those things, which that's great, and that's a fun roadmap for us to put together for you. But these are typically the why Dixas, and I think too, it's important to highlight that there's a lot of tools, there's a lot of platforms that are out there, but it goes beyond really the software. And I want to tie this back to just our process of looking at what you're currently experiencing and how do we get you from point A to point B, more of that future state. It really comes down to, and this is a big synergy with our great partners over at Horatio, that partnership approach, that consultation, that advisory. It's not just setting you all up on a platform and saying good luck. It's really that partnership approach to get you there. So with that, I know we're out of time. Hopefully we can field 1 to 2 questions, but thank you all so much.
Any questions for us before we? Yeah.
Corey, you talk a lot about you guys shadow agents to get a good sense of what's going on and how you guys can add value. Maybe talk a little bit about what you guys have changed or added to the product from the things that you've learned from those sessions and what you've actually put into the product so that when agents are getting in there, they can be more efficient, smarter, faster, and service customers better.
Yeah, I'll take a first stab. Kieran mentioned some of the things we're doing with GPT, which I know is a hot topic. We actually had a product-led webinar on it yesterday. But because of our dynamic knowledge component that's integrated in the platform, one of the things we've built into the agent workflow is what we call smart conversation replies. So essentially what that does is as a customer reaches out, it will look at, okay, what are they reaching out about? And then it will scan the knowledge base to figure out obviously what are the right knowledge articles to help this customer, but it'll take it a step further. It will actually draft a reply from the associate, and the associate gets final say on editing and tweaking that. But it's really unique because a lot of inquiries aren't just sort of one level. It might be my order hasn't got here yet, and I'm not sure why, and I'm going on vacation in a week, and I need to maybe, account for that because your food, box expires after a certain number of days. The smart conversation replies can actually handle multi-layer inquiries, and that can also save, agents time in not needing to pluck, okay, I'm solving problem 1 with this article, and then I'm going to tackle problem 2 and down the chain. So it can actually, bring a lot of those complex inquiries and improve response times on those.
Yeah, and one more thing to add, I think something that we found is that decision fatigue from an agent perspective is very real. And a lot of platforms have this concept of some of those that are more evolved have personalized agent inboxes. But the micro decisions that agents have to make throughout the day to select which inquiry to answer next can actually take up to 80 minutes within a working day, which is crazy. And so we came up with a concept that we call proactive offering, and you can set workloads on the back end, depending on how many chats you want an agent to be working at one given time, or SMS or whatever, where we've eliminated the concept of an inbox completely, and they're proactively offered that right interaction at the right time, and they can simply click accept, and they don't have anything else that they really have to decide. So we'd be happy to share a little bit more on that.
There's a lot of inside baseball for our friend over at Gorgeous, so I see you typing notes over there. We didn't have any graphs, unfortunately.
Yeah, no graphs.
Thank you all.
Awesome. Thanks all.